I think PANW is a great setup. I'm gonna tell you where PANW was a great setup. On the EP here, where we bought it. Now it's flagging. Yeah, I mean, it's strong. It's one of the few software names that's been holding up and actually, you know, hitting new highs, etc. It's, if it's a good setup, I don't know. It's a very slow mover. Another one is kind of similar, is FTNT. I don't know. Maybe soon. RTX, yeah, it's one of these. Yeah, this is the laggard in the sector. The leader is LMT, and LHX is another one. Along both. RTX is kind of. There's no setup here. They all triggered a few days ago. WEAT, yes, I got stopped out on it one of these a few weeks ago. I had it here. And then I got stopped out on the 28th. And then I rebought 2 days ago. LULU. Yeah, it's kind of flagging below the 200. Yeah. SWAV. This one had ultra mega super growth a few years ago. It had like triple digit revenue growth. Yeah. 749% revenue growth. 339, 215. Then it slowed down to 3%, and then it picked up again. The stock moved higher, but no, there's no setup here. I just remember the ticker. LAC, yeah, could be a buyable. It retested this base here, yeah, so it's a double support 50, and yeah, it could be for a longer term entry. Like if you're willing to hold it for months or weeks or months, yeah, sure, could be a potential entry point. Not my type of setup. I'm not really a good pullback buyer. AMD, NVDA for bounces? Nah, I don't know. I'd rather do SOXL ETF in that case if you want to bounce semiconductor names. Let's see here. So gold broke out of the flag a few days ago. Looks like it's having some follow through. I mean, Nugget and Chainug. Pretty decent position. My Nugget position is one of the biggest I've ever taken in my life. But my initial position is from here, and then I just added. Regen working well. FCX I've been for like 2 months now. Regen I've been in for a month. FCX and Copex for like 2 months. Or more even. Wait, I bought it. Yeah, 2 months. X I've been in for 2 months, month and a half, sorry. And uraniums, URA, URNM, I rebought a few days ago. Looks like they're having some follow through. Now, LMT I bought last week too, LHX too. Let's see. Yeah, these yeah, the copper and steel names. I'm trailing with the 10 weekly. I don't even look at daily. I try not to look at. I'm looking at it 10 weekly. I'm trying to increase my time horizon. You know, trying to be more of a position trader on smaller positions. MDB is bouncing off the 20 day. A lot of these software growth names are kind of strong today. These things look so good, like GUSH, CRX. Yeah, China had a big bounce together with the Nasdaq, the China names, but now kind of lost momentum for a month. Commodities. Question is if today is another fake out day. I don't know. That's why we put our balls in the line of fire and find out. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. GLNG, yeah, ooh, it looks like a good setup, yeah. Looks like all these other oil names, oil related names, energy related names. But yeah, it looks good. What about LNG? This one is flagging too. Oh, it's a slower one. Next, yeah, another energy name. Almost 15 ADR, yep. Yeah, it's a great setup. Very thin. Only for very small accounts. AMR, yeah, cool name. Look at the breakout it had here. Such a linear move. Tell? Another old gas name flagging, yeah. There's so many of them. Oh. CrowdStrike trying to reclaim the 200 day. Not bad. One of the leading software stocks. If you have a really small account below PDT, do you think it's advantageous to sit out and to just sit on your hands entirely, avoid any losses? Wait, when the market wins aren't blowing your way. So how do you determine when the market wins are blowing your way? How do you determine that? I guess you're trying to swing trade. I think if you see a good setup, you should trade it. Or especially if you have a whole group breaking out like we've had in oil, gas, and gold related names over the past week. Everything else is just... You're gonna take losses. You're gonna take strings of losses. How many trades I take per year? I don't know. 1,000 maybe? I don't know. You lost money on 19 out of 20 trades? Oof. That's brutal. Well, that means you're probably, you know, not identifying the right things, right sectors. You're not in the right stuff. I had a pretty bad losing streak. Was it last week and the week before? There were like 3-4 days. I didn't I got stopped out of everything. 5 days. But 19 out of 20. That sounds brutal. GTLS. Yeah, it looks good. It's a good setup. A little bit low on the ADR, but the setup is good, I guess. But I would prefer higher ADR setups if I had a smaller account. But to the guy who took who had 19 out of 20 trades were losses, think about it this way. Once you catch a trade where you make 15 times your risk, you pretty much made all your losses back. And then you catch another trade where you make 10 times your initial risk. Boom, you're in the green. And then you catch a third trade where you make 20 times your risk. Now you're well in the green. 15 times risk possible in this market. What do you mean this market? What do you mean this market? In the US market? Yes. 15 times risk is very possible in the US stock market. Just look at some of the things in my portfolio. Look at X, for example. Like when I bought it initially, what's my average on it? 24.94. So let's say 25. I had less than $1 risk on it, and I'm up, what, $11? I'm up like, I don't know, 12, 13 times, 14 times my initial risk on it. Same thing with, you know, COPEX and FCX. I'm up 10, 15 times my initial risk on them. Nugget, my initial buy here, this one too, I'm probably up 10, 15 times my initial risk on it. Then my add-on, not so much. Etc, etc, etc. So when you say this market, could you elaborate? I don't know what you mean by this market. What is this market? I assume you mean the US stock market, which we are all trading. Yes, it's very possible to make 15 times your initial risk in the United States stock market. Tune out the news, especially financial news. You don't need financial news. Ugh. You don't need any of that. Learn 1 or 2 setups and then focus on those setups. That's all you need. Everything else will take care of itself. You can't outsmart the market by reading more news or knowing about the yield curve or this or that or blah blah. If there's a setup, and especially if there's a lot of setups, well, especially if there's something that's been showing relative strength, you know, you have to listen to the market. And yes, sometimes the market is gonna be mean and stop you out, and you know, you're gonna take a lot of losses in a row. Sometimes it happens. Yeah, inflation, recession. Like if you're a short-term trader, doesn't matter. There's always money to be made. Sometimes, especially, you know, if you also do some shorting, but I wouldn't recommend it. It gets a bit confusing if you try to do shorting and longing at the same time. But sometimes you just have to sit out some periods here and there, and you know, not a big deal. How do you manage a position breaks out very strong, then immediately reverses the next Oxy on Friday? Well, I had ERX on Friday. Got stopped out yesterday. I lost like $500,000 on the trade. I had a huge position. And today I rebought it. No, actually I rebought GUSH. Because it has a higher ADR. Grab your balls, take your stop. Stop looking for shortcuts. Is there a way to cut your loss earlier? No. You wait until your stop hits. Don't overthink it. I read an amazing quote. Wait, I'm gonna try to find it. I found it on this guy on Friedrich Gischen. About, what's the guy? Bill Gross of PIMCO. One of the greatest bond investors. Look at this. This quote is amazing. What mattered was owning the risk. It was yours now. Defend it. You gotta defend your risk. It makes sense. Kinda resonated with me. I saved the quote. You set your risk and then you defend it. And guys, the problem is not the market. It's you. It's all in your head. All of these things, inflation, yield curves, this, that, market conditions, or whatever. It's all in your head. Most of the time, it's all doom and gloom. There's always some doom and gloom. But markets can go up even if there's a lot of doom and gloom. We saw that in March, April 2020. One of the biggest rallies ever. It was all doom and gloom. The world was gonna end. The world was shut down. And we had one of the biggest rallies ever. Thoughts on Kelly factor for position sizing? It's kind of hard to calculate the Kelly factor, but use half Kelly. For trading, use half Kelly. If you think you can calculate it, use half Kelly. How did I determine position size when I had a small account? Sometimes I went all in. Sometimes I went all in. But you can do that when you have a really tiny account. Because, you know, 5K, who cares? You just make it back pretty quickly if you have a job at the side. Mall cupping in Sweden. Pretty well paid, especially if you're willing to work weekends and nights. I definitely made above average. But that was like 12 years ago. 11. Do I ever go Bill Wang on a baby account? No. Too much leverage. I may go 1.5 times leverage in my portfolio. No more than that. Everything, I don't know, it's just crazy. Any mean reversion trades? Not, I don't see any. I had this Veru on watch. I was hoping for a bigger push. But I guess opening range lows was the trade. Oh well. Probably gonna fade back to $9 or something, I don't know. DDS, ignore it, it's just a random update. Something like this, you probably want like a really high volume breakout or like an EP. It's too random. Look how random this is. I don't know. Too random. Focus on flags. How many charts do I have open at one time? 1, 2. And sometimes on the open, when there's a lot of things going on, I have another up to 4 stocks on another screen. I can't say, I don't see much to do here rest of the day. Thanks for joining and see you tomorrow. Take care.